maybe it is a reflection of life where we think we can get from A to B, and actually there are lots of things along the way that cause problems. But I mean, you're essentially saying that the grail and kind of understanding that is, you know, you can take that positively, but the whole stories that you're telling are quite tragic.
They are tragic, but it's because it's showing the kind of the worst parts of life. And basically, what Parsival is, Parsival means pure fool. And one of the things I've done today, I've actually brought on. No, I've brought not the Joker. I have brought the tarot card, the Fool. He represents the tarot card, the Fool. This leap of faith that we have in life. I'll just pass this around. I know you probably know more about tarot than I do, to be honest. But this is my deck, and it just happens to be a Welsh Celtic deck. And it has Peridor, and Peridor is actually the Welsh name for Parsival. There's a Welsh myth for the Grail, and basically, if you take our lives as being this pure fool, I don't mean fool as in an idiot. I mean a fool as in someone who takes that leap of faith and actually, rather than having these set of rules that are kind of dogmatic rules that we've put in place to try and sort of ascertain what we should or shouldn't do, it's basically to work out within our own lives what we need to do. So if, say, I'm just trying to think of an example, because this kind of thing happens to me all the time, and I kind of readdress what it is. What does that mean? Why did that make me feel like that? And what do I need to do about it? And what I've found is that it's basically understanding whether it's my feelings or someone else's, or is that in connectiveness that we have. You know, how do we interact with others, and aspects of that. Really, a lot of his mistakes are made is when he's given advice, but because he doesn't know how to take that advice on, he kind of then makes mistakes. But before that, he was doing fine. Strangely, he was doing fine before that, and that's kind of one of my takes on it. But how do you feel? How do you feel about that, rather than?
No, it's quite interesting what you're saying, because in Buddhism we believe in the treasure tower.
Yes.
And we have our own treasure towers, which is ourselves. And when we meditate, the aim is always to bring your unconscious up so that you can understand the environment around you and not to react to it, but to just understand it. So I kind of get what you're saying.
I've taken a lot from Buddhism, actually, I have to admit. But yeah, that's completely it. And the other interesting thing about this is I've been reading about this dog, which is on here, and in some really early versions of the tarot, I'll pass this round, is actually not a dog but a hyena.
That's what she's just.
Yeah.
The dog.
And it's a hyena rather than a dog. And the hyena can represent a male and female aspect. It's kind of interchangeable, and it's also interesting the fact that it's number 0 as well. 0 being that like void, and the void is something that we'll be focusing on very, very soon, because when you get to that void state, you can see that there's that potential for something to happen. And that's why I was talking about the breath. We're going to be looking at the seed of potential in a moment, I think.
You just said the seed. In some tarot cards, including the medicinal tarot, it's called the seed.
Which one's called the seed?
It's called, instead of the fool, it's called the seed.
That's really interesting. I did not know that.
I can go and get the deck.
That's quite fascinating, because I've been reading aspects of alchemical texts and also Gnostic texts as well, because this is basically, if you look at it from the Gnostic point of view, it's all really saying the same thing. And when we look at that void, if I just imagine it to be a seed, what's inside, that void is actually the spirit, and that spirit has that potential to grow. And when we are focusing on our breath and our breathing, and you're thinking of it from a mindful point of view, you then completely focus on nothing other than what is happening. You are centered, you are still, and then you can actually then ascertain what's going on. Sorry, go on, because I thought you were going to say something else, but it's okay. Go on.
At the end of the story of Parsival, you said it didn't really end, but you said it's presumed that he went back and asked the question. But who did he ask the question of? Did he ask of the king? Did he ask of himself? Did he go to the church and ask? Who did he ask that question?
That's a good question. I would think he probably got back to the Grail Castle, is my own opinion, because the Grail Castle, basically, when you're asking that question, you are conscious of what the issue is. So they're saying, who does the Grail serve? It serves me. It serves the land. And what happened to the Grail King is that he, as a result of what happened to him when he was younger, and he basically lost his ability to look after the land. He was no longer had that masculine element. So I said that in some versions he lost his genitals. It's not a literal thing, but it's losing his aspect of looking after the land. So when when you lose that, you're no longer that male and female aspect is then disconnected. When a king or a queen is enthroned, they also marry the land. And if you're unable to look after the land, it becomes a wasteland. And I believe that the wasteland is also what's happening in ourselves, and also, I mean, look at the state of our world now. It's a wasteland, and this is why it's really, really important to start focusing on this. So
a joke for me, symbolic and what I felt was about it, is in Buddhist terms, it's surrendering the ego, or letting go, revolving beyond the self and self-seeking, or compassion, the ulterior, or the extension of I and me.
That's right, completely, yes.
The joke is very much like a mask. Again, it's a symbol within it, a symbol of death of the ego self, death of the selfish seeking. That involves the whole world, involves everything. So it's the next step of humanity, and it's next step for all of us to understand who we really are. And we're learning through these talks. But this joker, there's a lot of wisdom in that, I think. It's a lot of wisdom in that class.
It's so much wisdom, and yet it is about trust.
Yeah.
If you can trust in yourself, often we go through self-doubts. That's very, very true. Self-doubt is one of the things that stop us from interacting with people, because we end up judging people through our own self-doubts. And we need to be non-judgmental. That is so, so important. That's one of the key things, is our connection with others. Also being non-judgmental, knowing what it's like before and after death. That is the void. That is the void. If we can get those aspects, we're almost there with it in itself.
We also have this problem of projecting onto others.
Yes.
Our particular quality this side. It mirrors outwardly. It's not negative. So we have to find balance and recognise we have to find a middle path. Again, that's where Buddhism comes. Other traditions as well, the way, the Taoist way.
Yes.
So, are you saying that we're completely flying in the face of fatalism, like like The Alchemist, where the young boy goes through life and meets people along the way, and he's meant to meet all these people, and it leads to his destiny? Instead, we're saying we control our destiny. We have to trust how we can change things.
There is an element of control, but also you've got to think of we've also got to have that leap of faith. And when you have that leap of faith, then you kind of have to leave it to whatever happens. In the Taoist way, you don't have that controlling aspect of ourselves. We have to kind of leave it to see what happens, but then be aware when we're in those situations. Like right now, we have to be aware of our present moment now, and it's the same. So there's only an element of control in the fact we can control where we are now, if that makes sense.